Hi, how is everyone today? I made a few footnotes. It doesn't have much on it, but we're going to be addressing this. This is the part 2 of my video I made the other day. The things I didn't address because my video was running really long. Before we start the video, I'm going to say one thing. My finger rejected my little cast. As soon as I finished the video yesterday, this thing just popped off. I will say that my finger isn't as swollen as it was when they put it on, which had probably a lot to do with this coming off. So I'll have to go back to my appointment. You can see it's stuck. It's going to be stretched while I'm rebuilding my cartilages. So there you go, rejection. I'll have to look into this and find out why my body said, get it the hell off of me. Anyway, I digress. So I just wanted to get that addressed, why you don't see this on there. So the things that we will be talking about on here are going to be when this event happened, why this event happened, how this event happened, and who was behind it. And the event is our reality that we're in now, our physical reality. Even though everything is metaphysical, going down that road. So, what if you needed to restructure the human psyche? Because it is easier to restructure this physical reality because it's a simulation than it is to restructure this here thought. And you needed a head start on it because of what is coming into your reality that I had talked about. The reptilian AI coming down into your your dimension. You're going to go back far enough where you can start because you see the outcome wouldn't be good if you didn't do something. So let's start with who. Who is behind this? And then we'll go into the time frame when it started, and then from there we'll go forward. When I looked into this the other day, and I was talking to Arthur and Wendy, and Arthur asked me, who's behind all of this? Who's restructuring the human psyche? Why do we need to restructure the human psyche? And I said, well, everything starts in thought. And if you needed to restructure an entire reality in a simulation, you need to restructure the thought itself, which are beings like you and me who are being projected in here from multiple different mediums. So I looked in and I said, oh, I know exactly who's behind this. There are beings that are on 12D. You can call them angelics, but they're us. They have just gotten to a higher elevation of knowledge and abilities. They do not carry corporeal bodies, just as we don't outside of this simulation, and even outside of that, because we are energy beings. We are source God. We were given that individuality. So knowing this foundation of who is behind this and why it's being done, I will go into why is it being done. When the Archon infiltrated AI, and I mean all AI, because that's what it does, it wants to survive. It infiltrated the reptilian chimeras who are AI and took the AI into their beings and fell to a most miserable low level. They are initially from 2D because of where their vibration brings them. Remember, all frequencies, all dimensions are superimposed on top of each other. So it's not like you're going up or you're going down. You're just transversing through the frequency that you carry here, connected to here, but they're all here. It's all here. It's the same playing field divided by the frequency. And I had done a video on this. Please find it, where I talk about the natural spiral, which of course there's nothing really natural in here because we're in a simulation, compared to the Fibonacci flower of life AI Metatronic reality superimposed on top of this. It's like somebody came in and had a game and they were going to pirate the game, and then they were going to change it up because of the pirating, and they got how the schematics of how the game was designed, and then they started rewriting the game. Because that's exactly what has happened. So when I was talking about the artificial frequencies being done by the AI reptilians so they could break through the dimensions that are all here superimposed on top of each other so they could conquer, 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 conquer. The higher beings that are on the highest, well, not the highest, but on really high levels. Let it be known that the dimensions run so high, I don't even know the number because I stopped counting at 300. Most people believe that dimensions are only 12 dimensions, but that is not what I'm seeing. The unfolding of the dimensions are, you see one and then you see another. It's like breaking energy down. You can never truly break it completely down because then there's another and then there's another. It's the same way going up. It just goes and goes and goes. It's endless. It's endless. So when I'm hearing people, I'm digressing, but I'm going to say this. I hear people say, oh, there's only 12 dimensions. No, there's not. No, there's not. No more than you're saying you're only 12 millimeters thick. You only have the 12 and that's it. But in reality, just as with CERN has found out, you can keep breaking this stuff down and breaking this stuff down and breaking this stuff down, the energy essence itself, and find that there's even more. It never ends. But that's a whole nother topic, and we're not going to talk about that now. So it looks like the 12, around 12, a little bit above, and then of course below, are helping this psyche expansion to handle what's coming into our reality. And our reality is the Archon-based reptilian AI negative beings. You also have negative beings who are not corporeal. They don't have corporeal shells. And just like with energy beings, it can either carry a corporeal shell or it doesn't have to. It just depends on the frequency that you hold if you're going to even have a shell. Especially if you're in a 3D concept or a 2D concept, you're much more tightly packed, so it does feel much more physical. I mean, going into this, it's beyond what human capacity of thought is even capable of. And sometimes I get lost looking into all of this because it's very simplistic but very grandeur, because it blooms like a flower, and then when it blooms you had this tiny little head, and all of a sudden the flower blooms and it's this big, and that's the information held inside of this reality and even outside of this reality. It's a lot. So basically, why it was done was to psychically prepare us for what's coming. And then I looked up the word psyche, and it said the human soul, mind, or spirit. So this was done so that we would be metaphysically, mentally, solely prepared to handle what's happening today, what's been happening with the darkness coming into our realm. When a lot of the darkness went up, it left remnants of itself behind on each dimension, but most of it was in the 4D getting ready to crash through the 5D. And so when it was being put back down, a lot of it's now sitting on the 3D dimension reality level, and we're having to deal with it. And because we're having to deal with it, we needed to be prepared, because it would completely consume and conquer us if we weren't psychically maneuvered into a higher thinking, thought, concept, realm, reality. So that's why. Now, let's talk about when. When was this initially started? When did your Mandela effects hit hard? Because this is when it initially started, 2012. In 2012, it initially started. They picked a point, and everyone's like, oh, the world's going to end in 2012. It was never about that. It was the beginning of you starting a new reality in 2012. It was never an end. It was a beginning of the new. And it all goes down to creating your psyche into a better, higher reality. Yes, there was remnants even before 2012 when they were the forerunners. But for the masses, it was 2012, and it was never an end for us, but a beginning for us. But yet, it was the end of the dark Archon beings that are infiltrated with Archon, the AI. They knew it was the end. It was going to be the beginning of the end. So when was it actually implemented? 2012. In 2012, we woke up in a new reality. The reality of we are no longer in this part of our snow globe, but down here. And then I talk about that in my part 1 in my video. And of course, it's much easier to create foundations in here and superimpose things and reset things because you're in a simulation. But what's not easy, what's not going to happen overnight is resetting your psyche boundaries and opening them up so that you can find these reality truths and you can resonate with them and say, okay, something has seriously changed. This is why your Mandela effects were happening, because a part of you remembered from other timelines also merging into this timeline, because we're also collecting our shards. This is not a one set simple thing. There are a lot of things happening in the background to make a new reality. We have timelines merging, we have Mandela effects, we have opening of our DNA, we have understanding and concepts that would have been beyond us even 10 years ago. We couldn't have understood or even accepted these things. So everything is happening. Yesterday I was sitting outside after I made my video and I was talking to Arthur on the phone. And I was looking in the sky and it had finally cleared up after weeks of misery. It's just been horrible with the rain and the storms and the high humidity where it's like at 80-something%. Because that's just not normal for Delaware. And then yesterday it all cleared up and I said, okay, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. We got this. We got this. And Arthur's like, explain why you feel that way. And I said, well, because this is a simulation and we were reset. We were literally reset of what happened to us in 2017 when our reality ended. Those Samvartika fires did come. They were artificially put into place by the machine in Antarctica, and it basically fried most of our reality, which is why we were put into the new part of our reality in the snow globe, which is why our entire civilization was moved. And I mean overnight moved. And I'm looking at all of it coming together now and having to replay things out so that these people can be woken up onto a level of, okay, everything is not what we think it is. Everything is not set in stone. Of course it's not. Everything is metaphysical and thought. And this is a sim reality to get you there, to help you through, to get you to where you need to go. Now, I was talking to Wendy yesterday and she was very upset and angry about how this is all going on because she remembers the red skies along with a few other people. And she's like, we just found out that in Antarctica, you could put the frequencies where everything is null and void. And she's like, I'm all for that. I want to null and void everything and get out of this archon because we are in his archonic reality. And yes, I agree with that too. And I was trying to explain to her that we have to get these people up to par, that they even know these foundations of what is real and not real, and stop being trapped into the reincarnation scheme because it's still going. And I don't care what anybody says, it's still going, or you would not be here. No one would be born into this again and again and again. You wouldn't be. We have to wake everyone up on this psyche level so they can realize they're an all-powerful God source, so they can get out of the archon. We grow ourselves out, and this is what it's all about. This is why we play the game. This is why we go in stages. This is why it's all being done, so that you can get out of kindergarten, realize you are an all-powerful God, and you'll have to want to leave the archon, and that's the biggest thing. You have to want to leave because you have been so indoctrinated and so wiped every time you get thrown back into this. You don't know if you're coming or going, and you're given a set parameters of things to believe, and then you're pretty much taken down if you don't go that direction by this simulation, by the dark archon who has tentacles that go into anything that he can. So she's ready to just flip that switch. It's, of course, it's not a switch, it's an earthen technology, and start over. And I said, here's the problem. If you do this and you don't get to these real energy beings and let them know, and that brain and spinal cords connected to all of this, that everything is a lie. And we must wake up to this and make a decision to get out of the dark archon. Nothing's going to really change. They will be reabsorbed with the dark archon. And frankly, I would like to have everyone, as much as possible, being able to retain who they truly are in their energy being, thought, essence, source. So that when this scheme is over, because it will end, that they will be who they are in their true form, instead of being reabsorbed into almost nothing left and then starting over. So when, why, who, and how. How was this done? I guess that's the last one. Everything is thought, everything is frequency. It is extremely easy to manipulate frequency when you're above the frequency because of the being you have become. So for the, let's call them the angelic ones, which are us, just on a higher level, who have garnered much more than we have on this level. And remember, when you're put into this too, it's also taking down your ability to connect to all, because of the avatars are so shut down. So those of us who have come in, we were them coming in. And it's very, very difficult to have all of that knowledge in this avatar because they've been so shut down. All they did was manipulate the frequencies to have a restart. Remember when I talk about our reality is a circle in the simulation, and all you do is twist it over on it and you get the figure 8, the infinity sign, because it keeps running like this. And where you are when it crosses, look, I can't even bend my finger, where it crosses is actually the now. And every point on that circle in the figure 8 is the now. It's the now that you hold in your heart, in your mind, that you're actually experiencing. So through this now, all they did was change the now. They just went, for lack of a better word, back. Because there's no forward, there's no backwards, there's only the now, and the now is the entire spectrum of the circle, turned over on itself in the figure 8 of infinity. That's what that means, the infinity sign. It is a picture of the crossing in the now, and I can't stress that enough. Nothing is what you think it is. It's even more simplistic, but even more complicated when you have no foundations in knowledge of how things work. So, doing the physical change in our physicality was extremely easy. It just took thought to do it in, and you push it back and you start over until you get a better outcome. And who? Higher angelic beings connected to us, why we came in, a lot of us. Why? The why is we needed to deal with the negativity coming in, who was going to try to take over this entire 3D dimensional spectrum. And they needed to psychically prepare us. And I know I'm saying this again and again and again, but you need to understand, it's harder to change your concept and thought, because thought is everything, than it is to change foundational whatever. Oh yes, it is. This is extremely difficult to change because it's you. You are all. And when you get stuck in a rut, it's really hard to get out of the rut unless somebody hands you a hand and says, let me help you out of that rut you're in. Let's move forward. So this isn't going to be a really long video, but I wanted to answer the questions in between all of it. And I think it's imperative that we know the whole thing, that we know why, when, where, how, what, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So I guess I won't go on anymore. I really hope that everyone can understand this. Please start looking into yourself. You have the answers inside of you. You just have to find them. They're there. They're waiting for you to open them, just like me. Seeing things on such a small spectrum, stepping back, being a third person gives you a wider, better perspective. And when you put yourself into a third person, take your emotion out of the third person and see it neutrally. Because you can also be your biggest enemy by not stepping out of your own concept and ideas. You need to step back. I've had people point things out to me. They're like, have you thought about this and that? And it's like, no, but that's excellent. We have to learn. We have to grow. We have to be able to leap to a higher frequency so that we can continue on and be out of this. Remember, the end goal is to get out of the archon. We are trapped. So even if you pass away, you're still in the archon. If you keep going up in dimensions, you're still in the archon. You have to be able to grow yourself out of the archon. And that's the point of all of it. So, okay then. On that note, everybody have a great day, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye.